speak to you all about domestic violence. Let's talk about the purpose of this speech. The purpose is to educate Americans about domestic violence and informing them that it's not just spousal abuse. It could happen between fathers, daughters, mothers, sons, cousins, uncles. Putting an end to domestic violence will save a lot of innocent people. What is domestic violence? Domestic violence is defined as a pattern of abusive behavior, one pattern of an intimate relationship, such as marriage, dating, family, or friends. How to identify domestic violence? Domestic violence is aggressive behavior such as hitting, kicking, biting, shoving, restraining, slapping, or throwing about objects at each other. Warning signs is frequent injuries that causes accidents between two couples. Missing work, school functions, and social functions. Victims will wear clothing to cover up and hide bruises and scars. Physical signs are black eyes, cuts, and broken bones. Domestic violence can be in so many forms, such as sexual abuse, controlling, intimacy stalking, and passive abuse. There are three types: psychological abuse, is simple chronic depression, anxiety, and nervousness; physical abuse, involving and another causing bodily harm; emotional abuse, and similar of psychological abuse. It's when a person experiences name-calling, yelling words that says, make somebody have tears, or make somebody upset. Domestic violence affects more than 4 million a year. Domestic violence is higher amongst family and friends by 60%. Domestic violence has been one of the highest crimes facing America, and the highest among people between the ages of 15 to 24 years old. More than 40% of Americans spend up to 10 years imprisonment due to domestic violence. Domestic violence is a global killer. Domestic violence has changed since the 80s and the early 90s. It's not just spousal abuse. It can happen between family members, such as fathers, daughters, mothers, and sons. Also cousins, uncles, aunties, nieces. Domestic violence is not being dealt with because of lack of not reporting it. Domestic violence affects more than our youth and is growing rapidly year to year. In my line of work, I practice and work with domestic violence. I do restraining orders. And sometimes we have the mother come in and she would have a restraining order on the daughter, or she have a restraining order on the son, or vice versa. The father have a restraining order on his daughter, or the sons, or a boyfriend or girlfriend would put restraining orders on each other. And it's not a long process, but when they come in, they'll file with the clerk's office, or they'll file with whatever court. It could be criminal court, civil court, or any means of court that deals with domestic violence. And once they get the order and they get with attorney, or they might come in and file it themselves, they come to court, and the sheriff's office will go out and serve, or the police department will go out and serve the person, and they would be scheduled a date for court. There are many programs that we have for domestic violence, and you can report it. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, Further Without Domestic Violence, and the Louisiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Domestic violence is something I handle in my everyday work, and I want to tell everyone that domestic violence can only end if we report it. Thank you for this.
Okay, he has them both, and that's it.